Young seamstress adopted twin babies. Years later, their real father came back as a CEO millionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Let's dive into today's story. It was a chilly evening in a small town on the outskirts of the city. A young seamstress named Lily was heading home after a long day of work. She had spent the day stitching dresses and repairing clothes for the local boutique. She loved her work, but it didn't pay much. She was used to getting by with little, but tonight was different. As she walked along the dimly lit street, she heard soft cries coming from a nearby alley. Curious and concerned, Lily followed the sound, her heart pounding in her chest. When she reached the source of the cries, she froze. There, huddled in a small cardboard box, were two twin babies, no more than a few months old. Their tiny bodies were shivering in the cold, their faces red from the night air. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She didn't know what to do, but instinctively, she knelt down and reached for the babies. She gently lifted them into her arms, feeling their frail bodies press against her chest. Despite her own struggles, Lily couldn't ignore the desperate need for help in front of her. She knew she couldn't leave them here. Without thinking twice, she wrapped the babies in her coat and hurried back to her small apartment. Lily had always dreamed of having a family, but she never imagined it would come in the form of two abandoned babies. Her apartment was tiny, with barely enough room for herself, let alone two infants. But she wasn't going to let that stop her. She knew what it was like to feel alone, and she wasn't going to let these babies grow up feeling abandoned. She spent the next few weeks doing everything she could to care for them. She woke up early to feed them, change their diapers, and rock them to sleep every night. The twins became her world. She was determined to give them a better life, even if it meant sacrificing her own. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Lily's life became a blur of sewing, caring for the babies, and scraping by. But no matter how hard it got, she never gave up. She loved those babies like they were her own. Then, one day, everything changed. Lily received a letter in the mail. It was from a lawyer, stating that the twins' biological father was looking for them. At first, Lily was confused. She didn't know anything about the baby's parents. But as she read the letter, she learned that their father was a successful CEO. The letter explained that the twins had been abandoned when their mother passed away, and their father had been searching for them ever since. He had no idea they were living with Lily, and now he was offering to take them back. Lily's heart raced as she thought about what to do. She knew the twins deserved to know their real father, but the thought of losing them was unbearable. She had become their mother in every way, and she couldn't imagine her life without them. What would she do now? As Lily sat at her small kitchen table, the letter from the lawyer felt heavier than it ever had before. She turned it over in her hands, her mind racing with thoughts and fears. The twins had been a part of her life for so long now. She couldn't even imagine them with anyone else. And yet, they were not hers by blood. They had a father out there somewhere, a man who had the right to raise them, and he had finally found them. But how could she just let them go? How could she hand over the only family she had ever known? Her heart twisted in pain as she looked over at the twins sleeping peacefully in their cribs. They were the light of her life. They had no idea about the letter, about the man who was coming to take them back. She had promised herself that no matter how hard things got, she would give them a good life, and she had kept that promise. But now things had changed. She was no longer just their caretaker, she was their mother. What would it mean for them to go back to their biological father? Would they forget about her? Would they even want to stay with her after meeting him? Lily couldn't answer these questions. She didn't know if she was strong enough to make the right decision, but she knew she had to try. She had to be honest with herself and with them. The twins deserved to know their real father, and they deserved to make their own choices. The next day, she arranged a meeting with the lawyer. She had to hear it from him, to understand what was at stake. Sitting across from the lawyer in his office, Lily felt a mix of emotions. The lawyer explained that the twins' father, Mr. Jonathan Carter, was a wealthy CEO. He had been devastated when he found out his children were abandoned. The letter had been sent to Lily after months of legal work, trying to track down the family. He was eager to meet them, to bring them home. But Lily wasn't so sure. She had to ask the tough questions. How would the twins adjust to such a drastic change? What kind of life could they have with someone like Jonathan Carter, a man who had been absent for so long? Would he really want to raise them, or was it all just about his reputation? The lawyer assured her that Mr. Carter had changed. He had learned a lot during the years he had spent grieving for his children, and he was willing to give them a future they deserved. He's not just a CEO, the lawyer said. He's a father who has come to realize what family truly means. Lily wasn't convinced. She had seen enough wealthy men use their power for personal gain, to control others, to bend people to their will. How could she trust someone like him? And yet, deep down, she knew that this wasn't just about her. It was about the twins and their future. She had given them all the love and care she could offer, but now she had to let them decide what they wanted. That night, after the twins were asleep, Lily sat by the window, staring out at the moonlit sky. Her heart felt heavy, but she knew she couldn't keep running from this. She had to make the hard choice. She had to meet Jonathan Carter, face him, and see if he was truly worthy of being their father. The next morning, she received a call from the lawyer. Jonathan Carter wanted to meet her in person. The meeting was set for that afternoon. As the hours passed, Lily tried to prepare herself. She couldn't help but wonder what kind of man this CEO really was. Was he truly changed? Was he ready to be the father his children needed? Or was this all just a well-constructed facade? When the time came, Lily arrived at the lawyer's office, her heart beating in her chest. She took a deep breath and walked inside, determined to find out the truth. The moment Lily stepped into the lawyer's office, her mind was racing. She had spent the entire morning trying to prepare for this meeting, but nothing could have truly prepared her for what was about to happen. The air felt thick with anticipation as she entered the sleek, modern office. There, sitting at a large oak desk, was Jonathan Carter, tall, well-dressed, and exuding an air of power that Lily couldn't ignore. He stood up as she entered, his expression guarded but respectful. "Ms. Lily," he said, his voice deep and calm. "I'm glad you could make it." She nodded, her hands gripping the strap of her bag tightly. She didn't know what to expect, but she knew that today would change everything. As she took a seat across from him, Lily couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. The twins had been her life, her everything. She had raised them from the moment they had been placed in her arms, and now, after all these years, their biological father was sitting right in front of her, ready to take them back. "I know this is difficult," Jonathan began, breaking the silence. "I never wanted to be apart from them. I've spent years looking for them, regretting the day I lost contact with them. I know I've missed so much, and I can't undo the past, but I want to make things right." Lily looked at him, her expression unreadable. "How can I trust you?" she asked softly, her voice laced with emotion. "You're a CEO. You have everything. Power, wealth. How can I be sure you won't just take them away from me, from the life they know?" Jonathan's eyes softened, and for the first time, he seemed vulnerable. "I know I can't ask you to trust me just like that," he said, his voice sincere. "But I'm here because I want to give them a future, a family, and I want to include you in that. I know I've failed as a father before, but I am not the same man I was back then." Lily studied him carefully, her heart torn. She wanted to believe him, to believe that the children would be better off with him, but a part of her still feared losing them. They were her children now, even if they weren't hers by blood. The thought of giving them up felt like an insurmountable loss. "I don't know if I can let go of them," Lily whispered, more to herself than to him. "They are my family. I've given them everything I have." Jonathan leaned forward, his gaze steady and earnest. "I understand," he said, "and I respect that. All I'm asking for is a chance to be a part of their lives, to make up for the time I've lost. I won't take them away from you, but I want to be there for them, for all of us." Lily felt the tension in her chest loosen slightly, but the fear of the unknown still lingered. She had built a life with the twins, a life that was fragile yet precious. Could she really share that with someone she barely knew? And would the twins even want to be a part of his world? The silence hung heavy between them for a moment before Jonathan spoke again. "I know this won't be easy, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove myself. I'll start by giving you the space you need. And if you ever feel ready, I'd love to meet with the twins. Slowly, on their terms. No pressure, just a chance to reconnect." Lily's heart wavered. He seemed genuine, but could she trust him? Could she trust herself to make the right decision for the children? After a long pause, She finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. I need time. Time to think, and time for them to adjust. This is their life, too. Jonathan nodded, a look of understanding crossing his face. Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, ready when you are. As Lily stood to leave, a strange feeling settled in her chest. She wasn't sure what the future would hold, but one thing was certain. This was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything for her, for Jonathan, and for the twins. As Lily sat quietly in her small apartment, the weight of the decision she had to make weighed heavily on her. She could still feel the tension from her meeting with Jonathan lingering in the air. She had been so sure of her path before. Her life was clear, simple, and centered around the twins. But now, with Jonathan's words echoing in her mind, nothing seemed certain anymore. The children were asleep in the other room, and as much as she tried to push it away, a sense of doubt crept in. Was she doing the right thing by keeping them from their father? They deserved the truth. They deserved to know who they were and where they came from. But did that mean she had to let them go? Did she have the strength to be the mother they needed, or was she holding on to them out of fear of the unknown? That night, as Lily lay in bed, the silence around her was deafening. She kept thinking about Jonathan. He seemed genuine, almost too perfect. A successful CEO, wealthy beyond belief, and yet here he was, wanting to be a part of their lives. But how could she be sure he wasn't just doing this out of some sense of obligation or guilt? Her heart ached thinking about the life they had built together. Her, the twins, their small apartment. It was all they knew, and she had worked so hard to give them a life filled with love, even if it wasn't rich in material things. She thought about Jonathan's offer to meet the children. Could they handle that? Would they even want to? They were so young, and Lily didn't know if they would understand the complexity of the situation. She couldn't bear the thought of them being torn between two worlds. The next day, Lily couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She went to work, trying to distract herself, but the weight of it all followed her, pressing down on her shoulders. She had agreed to give Jonathan a chance, but what if that was the wrong decision? As she sewed a piece of fabric together, her mind kept drifting back to the twins. She loved them more than anything. She couldn't imagine a life without them in it. But could she really keep them from their father? The thought seemed selfish, but she also couldn't deny the fear that gripped her at the idea of losing them. That evening, as Lily sat with the twins, feeding them their dinner, a wave of emotion washed over her. They looked up at her with wide eyes, trusting and innocent. She had given them everything. The thought of handing them over to someone else, even if it was their father, felt like a betrayal. But was it? Was it a betrayal to give them the opportunity to know their real family, to have a chance at a life beyond what she could offer? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Startled, she walked over and opened it. To her surprise, it was Jonathan standing there, looking slightly nervous but determined. I know you said you needed time, he said softly, his voice full of sincerity. But I want to give you space to talk to the twins, to understand if they want to meet me. I don't want to force anything on them. I just want a chance to be a part of their lives, even if it's small at first. Lily stood frozen for a moment, unsure of what to say. Part of her was relieved to hear him offer such an understanding approach. But the other part of her felt like she was being pulled in two different directions. Was she ready to let go? Was she ready to give the twins the life they deserved, even if it meant stepping aside? I don't know, Lily said quietly, looking down at the twins who were now playing on the floor. I just don't want to hurt them. Jonathan nodded, his expression softening. I understand. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. And when you're ready, I'll be here. He turned to leave, but before he walked away, he added, I just want what's best for them, Lily. And if that means waiting, I will. The door closed behind him, and Lily stood there, her mind whirling. Could she really do this? Could she open her heart to the possibility of them having a life with Jonathan? It wasn't an easy decision. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. This was just the beginning of a journey she couldn't walk alone. The twins deserved to know the truth, and maybe, just maybe, it was time for all of them to have a chance at something bigger than they had ever imagined. Lily spent the next few days in a whirlwind of thoughts, trying to make sense of the decision that loomed over her. The twins had no idea what was going on. To them, their world was simple. Lily was their mom, and nothing else mattered. They didn't understand the complexities of the situation, nor should they. They were just children, and for now, their needs were simple. But for Lily, it was becoming harder to ignore the reality that Jonathan Carter, the man who had given them life, wanted to be part of it. She kept thinking about the offer he had made, his patience, his willingness to wait, his sincerity. But what if he wasn't ready? What if all he saw was an opportunity to reclaim what he had lost? What if he didn't see the bond she had built with the twins? The weight of her responsibility as their mother never felt heavier. On one hand, she wanted the twins to have everything they deserved, including a chance to know their biological father. But on the other hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being replaced. She had worked so hard to build a life for them, and now she was questioning whether it was enough. That evening, she sat down with the twins, who were playing with their toys in the living room. Their laughter filled the room, and for a moment, Lily allowed herself to feel at peace. She had given them a life full of love, even if it wasn't perfect. She was all they knew, and they were all she had. But was that enough? Should it be enough? Her heart ached as she thought about the future. Could she really turn away Jonathan and the possibility of a life that might be better for the twins? What if they had a chance at something bigger, something she could never offer them? It was then that she realized something crucial. She wasn't being asked to choose between them and Jonathan. She was being asked to let them have it all: love, family, and the opportunity to grow up knowing both their past and their future. But it wasn't going to be easy. The twins had been through so much already, and she couldn't expect them to just accept a stranger as their father. She needed time, but more importantly, they needed time. As she sat with them, watching their innocent play, she made up her mind. It was time to meet Jonathan again, but this time, it would be on her terms. She had to take a step back and let them decide how to move forward. The following week, Lily reached out to Jonathan, asking to meet him again, but this time with the twins. She wasn't sure how they would react, but she knew it had to happen. Jonathan agreed without hesitation, understanding her need for time. He was willing to take things slow, to allow the children to come to him in their own time. When the day finally arrived, Lily was nervous. She didn't know what to expect. She didn't know if the twins would even want to meet Jonathan. But as they sat together in the small cafe where she had arranged to meet, she watched as Jonathan knelt down to their level, introducing himself softly. His voice was calm, his smile gentle, and his eyes were full of sincerity. The twins stared at him, unsure at first, but as he spoke to them about their favorite games, their favorite foods, they slowly warmed up to him. It was awkward at first, but as the hours passed, something changed. The tension between them began to melt away. By the end of the meeting, Jonathan had shared stories from his life, and the twins had responded in their own innocent way. They were still hesitant, still unsure, but there was a spark of something there, something that could grow into trust. And for Lily, that was all she needed to see. It wasn't about forcing a relationship, it was about giving them the space to form their own bond. As they left the cafe, Jonathan smiled at Lily. "Thank you for this," he said softly. "I know it's not easy, but this means the world to me." Lily nodded, her heart still heavy but lighter than it had been in days. She wasn't sure where this journey would take them, but she knew one thing for sure. This was the first step toward a new chapter for all of them. Lily spent the next few days reflecting on the meeting with Jonathan. It had been a small step forward, but it left her with more questions than answers. The twins seemed more open to the idea of Jonathan being a part of their lives, but she still couldn't shake the fear that came with letting go of the control she had so carefully built. She had done everything for them, everything to make sure they had a good life, and now, this man, a stranger in many ways, was suddenly a part of their future. She watched them play in the living room, their laughter filling the air, and for a brief moment, she wished things could just stay the way they were. But life had a way of moving forward, whether she was ready or not. Jonathan had proven that he wasn't in a hurry. He was patient, willing to wait until they were ready, but Lily could feel the pressure building inside her. Was she being selfish? Was she keeping them from something they deserved? She decided to take a small step forward. The following weekend, she invited Jonathan over to their apartment. She wanted to see how he interacted with the twins in their own environment, not in a neutral setting like the cafe. The meeting was set, and Lily was both nervous and hopeful. When Jonathan arrived, he was dressed casually, his demeanor more relaxed than the last time they met. The moment he walked through the door, the twins ran up to him, their faces full of curiosity. He knelt down to their level and smiled. "Hey there, I'm Jonathan," he said softly, his voice warm and inviting. The twins hesitated for a moment, but then one of them, Emma, took a step forward. "Do you like dinosaurs?" she asked, her voice tentative. Jonathan chuckled, his eyes lighting up. "I love dinosaurs," he replied. "In fact, I know a lot about them. Want to hear some fun facts?" Emma's face lit up, and she nodded enthusiastically. For the next few minutes, Jonathan shared fun, silly facts about dinosaurs, and the twins' shyness seemed to melt away. They started to engage with him, asking questions and sharing their favorite toys. Lily stood off to the side, watching them interact, and a strange feeling of peace settled over her. She hadn't expected it to be this easy. The twins were enjoying themselves, and Jonathan wasn't pushing them. He was simply being present, being himself. After about an hour, they all sat down to have lunch together. The atmosphere in the apartment was more relaxed than it had been in weeks. Lily felt a small smile tug at her lips as she watched Jonathan play with the twins. He was doing exactly what he said he would. He was taking his time, letting them get to know him at their own pace. As the afternoon wore on, Lily's mind began to settle. She had been afraid that Jonathan's wealth and power would somehow overshadow the life she had worked so hard to build, but now she realized that it wasn't about that. It was about creating a balance, about giving the twins the chance to know both their past and their future. They weren't being forced to choose one or the other. They could have both. Jonathan left the apartment that day with a promise to return the following week. As he walked out the door, he turned to Lily with a look of understanding. "I'm not going anywhere, Lily," he said softly. "Whenever you're ready, we can move forward together. But I'll wait, just like I said." Lily watched him leave, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of relief. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew that whatever happened, they would figure it out together. She wasn't alone in this anymore. Lily had hoped that things would become clearer after Jonathan's visit, but as the week passed, the doubts and fears she had been trying to push aside only seemed to grow stronger. She watched the twins more closely, noticing how they spoke of Jonathan, how they mentioned him in passing during their playtime. It seemed like they were adjusting, but deep down, Lily wondered if she was. The thought of sharing them, of having to let go, gnawed at her every time she saw their innocent faces. She had never anticipated how difficult this would be, especially after everything she had done for them. She had poured her heart into raising them, and the idea of someone else stepping in, even their real father, felt like an impossible change. That weekend, when Jonathan returned as promised, Lily found herself at a crossroads. The twins seemed happy to see him, their faces lighting up when he walked through the door. They were already running toward him before she could even say a word, and for a brief moment, she wondered if they even needed her anymore. Jonathan crouched down, lifting them up into his arms with ease, laughing as they squirmed and giggled. Lily watched from the doorway, a lump forming in her throat. She couldn't deny the bond that was forming between them, but it wasn't easy to accept. Jonathan, sensing her hesitation, paused and looked over at Lily. His expression softened. "How about we talk for a bit?" he asked, his voice gentle. Lily nodded, trying to hold back her emotions. She led him into the small living room, and the two sat on the couch, the twins busy in the other room. "I know this is hard," Jonathan began, his voice steady. "But I also know that you're doing what you think is best for them. And I respect that. But I also want you to know, I'm not here to replace you." Lily swallowed hard, the words hitting her like a wave. She had never thought of it that way before. She had always feared Jonathan was there to take over, to push her out. But hearing him say it, hearing the sincerity in his voice, made her stop and think. "I'm not asking for everything right away," Jonathan continued. "I just want to be there for them. And for you, too, if you'll let me." Lily took a deep breath, unsure of what to say. She had always believed that family meant staying together no matter what, but she also knew that these children deserved to know the truth of who they were. And Jonathan was part of that truth. "I don't know if I'm ready," Lily admitted quietly. "I'm scared of what might happen. I don't want to lose them." Jonathan placed a hand on hers, a reassuring gesture that calmed her nerves. "You're not going to lose them," he said softly. "I want us to be a family, in whatever way that works for you. I'm not asking you to give up what you have with them. I just want to share in it." Lily closed her eyes, the weight of his words settling on her. She had always thought that being a mother meant having all the control, but now she realized that it also meant being open to change, being willing to allow others in. I just don't want to mess this up, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to break their hearts. Jonathan smiled gently, his eyes full of understanding. I know, and you won't. You've already given them everything they need. Now, it's about us finding a way to do this together, step by step. As the afternoon wore on, Lily watched Jonathan interact with the twins again. This time, she saw him differently, not as a threat, but as a partner in their journey. It wasn't going to be easy, but she knew that she couldn't do this alone anymore. She had to trust in the possibility of a new kind of family, one that was built not on control or fear, but on love and the willingness to grow together. And for the first time in a long time, Lily felt a spark of hope for what the future could hold. Lily had spent weeks processing the whirlwind of changes in her life, but now, something within her had shifted. The fear and uncertainty that had once consumed her thoughts were starting to fade. It wasn't that the future was suddenly clear, but she realized something important. She wasn't alone in this anymore. Jonathan had shown her that. He had been patient, understanding, and most importantly, consistent. He hadn't rushed her, hadn't demanded anything. He had simply been there. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Lily felt she could truly breathe. The bond between Jonathan and the twins had grown steadily. Emma and Noah, initially hesitant, were now laughing and playing with him like he had always been there. It was as if a part of their family puzzle had clicked into place, though there was still a long road ahead. Lily knew it wasn't going to be easy for the children to fully understand what was happening. They were so young, and their world had been turned upside down in such a short amount of time. But they seemed happy. Jonathan had been there for them in a way that she couldn't have imagined. Lily, on the other hand, still struggled with her own feelings. She knew she had to let them go to some extent, but the thought of stepping back and allowing someone else to take over as a father figure wasn't simple. She wasn't sure if she could ever truly accept that. Yet, every time she saw Jonathan with the twins, the knot in her stomach loosened a little. Maybe she didn't need to be afraid of losing them. Maybe this was just another kind of family, one built not on the past, but on the willingness to adapt and grow together. As time went on, the day of the charity event approached. Lily had been asked to participate in the fundraiser to support underprivileged children, something she had always wanted to be a part of but never had the chance to. Jonathan was also attending as one of the sponsors. He had invited her to come with him, to make her feel comfortable, to show her that she was a part of his world, too. The idea of attending together made Lily anxious. A fancy gala, all those people, and Jonathan's high-profile status, it felt like too much. But Jonathan had been nothing but supportive, and she realized that this was a chance for her to step into this new life with him, to show the world that she was ready to take on whatever came next. The night of the event, Lily stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the dress Jonathan had bought her for the occasion. It wasn't a dress she would have ever imagined wearing for herself. She wasn't used to this world of wealth, elegance, and influence. But she was learning, bit by bit, that she didn't have to be afraid of it. She didn't have to lose herself in it. As she arrived at the event with Jonathan, she felt a surge of nervousness. The grand ballroom was filled with guests in formal attire, each conversation blending with the soft music playing in the background. Jonathan introduced her to several people, and although she felt out of place at first, the kindness he showed made her feel more at ease. She saw him in his element, confident and poised, yet still gentle with her. Later in the evening, Jonathan gave a speech to the gathered crowd, thanking everyone for their support. Lily stood by his side, watching him speak with passion about the importance of giving back and supporting the community. When he finished, the applause filled the room. Jonathan turned to her and smiled, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for being here with me," he said softly. Lily smiled back, her heart swelling with emotion. She had never imagined she would be here, in this moment. But now, standing beside Jonathan, she realized that she was finally starting to embrace the idea of being part of something bigger than herself. She was beginning to understand that family wasn't just about blood. It was about choice, about love, and about being there for each other, no matter where you came from. And as she held Jonathan's hand, surrounded by people who had no idea what her journey had been, Lily felt more at peace than she had in a long time. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. She was ready to walk forward, step by step, with Jonathan and the twins, knowing that together, they could face whatever came next. Lily had never imagined she would find herself in this place. Just a few months ago, her life was simple and predictable, filled with the quiet hum of everyday struggles. But now, standing in the center of her new life, she realized just how far she had come. The gala was over, and the night had ended on a note of warmth and hope. As she sat in the back of the car with Jonathan, the twins nestled in their car seats. A deep sense of contentment washed over her. The city lights glowed softly through the window, casting a gentle light on their faces. Jonathan glanced at her, his expression soft. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Lily smiled, the weight of the past few months lifting off her shoulders. "I'm starting to feel like this is my life too," she replied. "I'm not sure where it will go, but I'm not afraid of it anymore." Jonathan's smile deepened. "You're not alone in this," he said, his voice warm. "We're in this together." And for the first time, Lily truly believed him. She had been so afraid of what the future would hold, but now, she saw it differently. It wasn't about perfection or having everything figured out. It was about love, about the willingness to grow together and face challenges as a family. The twins, who had once been the center of her world, were now a part of something bigger, something that included Jonathan, and something that she couldn't have imagined on her own. They were all learning, adapting, and growing in ways they had never anticipated. As they arrived at their apartment, Jonathan helped Lily carry the twins inside. The familiar warmth of their small home embraced them as they stepped through the door. Lily paused for a moment, looking around at the life they had built together. It was still small, still simple, but it felt complete. It felt real. The twins ran to their room, chattering excitedly about their day. Lily and Jonathan stood in the doorway, watching them. There was still uncertainty, but it didn't feel as heavy as it had before. Jonathan turned to her, his eyes full of affection. "We're going to be okay, Lily," he said, his hand gently brushing hers. She nodded, her heart full. "We already are," she replied softly. In that moment, Lily knew that the future would be filled with challenges, but also with love. It wasn't about perfect solutions or neatly packaged endings. It was about choosing to walk together, side by side, and trusting that the bond they shared would be enough to carry them through whatever came next. As she stood there with Jonathan, watching their children play in the next room, Lily finally understood what it meant to be part of a family. Not one bound by blood, but one forged through choice, patience, and unconditional love. And for the first time in a long time, she felt at home.